guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree if you are new here, and in today's video I wanted to chat about some dupes. Some are not like direct dupes. They're kind of more of a like buy this not that kind of situation, but I have some products that are very similar or are maybe a little bit better than their more expensive counterpart. So I wanted to share this stuff with you guys. I thought that that would be really fun. I have done a dupes video in the past. I will link that up in the eye for you guys as well, because I am not, those are going to be completely different products than what I'm talking about today. So you guys will be able to maybe see some more dupes if you guys are interested. That previous video was very focused on finding dupes for Becca products that I had in my collection. So if you guys are still looking for dupes for Becca products, definitely check that video out. But without further ado, let's talk about some dupes. All right, a couple of these I do not have like their more expensive counterpart. So, but I have tried it, I have used it, I just have finished up the product and now I don't have it in my collection anymore. But I was familiar enough with the product that I'm comfortable in saying that what I have is very similar or even maybe slightly better. So the first dupe that I have, and I will, if I don't have the product, I'll put a picture up on the screen. But the first product that I have a dupe for is the Cover FX Gripping Primer. And the dupe that I have is the e.l.f. Mint Melt Cooling Primer. Also another dupe would be the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Primer, which I also have, but I don't need both of them out. They're identical. And it is to my understanding that the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer is the same as these, just without a fragrance in them. So, you know, take that for what you have. Well, I have not tried Power Grip though, so I can't say for sure. But both of these are gripping primers. I'm not going to swatch this because it's super sticky and I hate the feeling on my fingers. But both of them are gripping primers, obviously. So you put it on your skin, you let it sit for about 30 seconds, and it gets really tacky, and it just does an amazing job at holding your foundation and concealer onto your skin. This one is minty scented, and it does have a little bit of a cooling sensation to it. Jelly Pop has a watermelon scent to it. From what I understand, Power Grip has no scent to it whatsoever. Myself personally, I think that this one is actually a little bit better. They're both very gripping. They both hold makeup on really well. The Cover FX one that I had, I would notice every once in a while, especially around my chin and right in my temple area, so maybe where product was applied a little bit thinner, that there was a little bit of pilling that would happen. I have not experienced that at all with this one. So in my opinion, this is just preferable. It's also significantly fucking cheaper. But basically what I do is I don't like to put it directly on my fingers. I find that it spreads easier if I pump just a little bit on each cheek and on my forehead, and then I'll do like a little dot on my nose and a little dot on my chin, and I will just work it in, making sure to kind of just blend it out, and then again, you just let it sit for 30 to 60 seconds before you go in with anything, so that it has a full time to like sink in and reach its maximum tack, if you will say. The next product that I have a dupe for is the Nars Sheer Glow Foundation. So I've raved about this foundation. It is one of my favorite foundations. I was for the longest time in the camp that this foundation, Sheer Glow, meant that it was super sheer coverage and super glowy. No, this is a medium to full coverage foundation with a sheer amount of glow to it. It is just a beautiful foundation. It looks amazing on the skin. I'm just gonna pump out just a little, literally the tiniest little bit. But it has a beautiful level of coverage to it, and it just looks so good on the skin. So you can see it has just a minimal amount of glow to it, not crazy. You could definitely up the glow with whatever type of primer you put on underneath, but it just has just a little bit of glow to it with just a good amount of coverage, lasts beautifully throughout the day, and it's just, it applies beautifully, it wears beautifully, you know, everything like that. The dupe that I have found is the Physicians Formula Butter Believe It foundation. Now I'm gonna obviously throw out there that the shade range is significantly better from Nars than it is from Physician Formula, and that is something that they need to work on, but both foundations are slightly different shades, but both foundations are medium to full coverage with just a sheer amount of glow to it. I would say that the Nars one has just maybe a little, I did a slightly bigger swatch on this one, a little bit more came out on the pump. But I will say that the Physicians Formula has just a little bit more glow to it. Like you can see the Nars one is definitely setting down now, and it does just have just a little bit of like a luminosity to it. This one definitely has a little bit more. I'll give it a second to really set down and sink in. But they both wear very, very, very similarly throughout the day. They don't break down, they don't crease on my skin, they don't get cakey throughout the day. They apply very, very similarly. They just blend easily into the skin and just melt in and just look natural on the skin. I just find them to be very, very similar at the end of the day. So like I said, after drying down, the Physicians Formula does have just a little bit more of a sheen to it than the Nars one, but at the end of the day, they wear so similarly and they look so similar on the skin that I couldn't not recommend. And next up, I have another foundation dupe for you. The product that I am duping is the Kosas Revealer Skin Improving Foundation. This has SPF of 25. So this foundation has quite a bit of skincare in it. It has hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, peptides, squalane, vitamin B5, arnica, caffeine, and artemisia flower. It is a beautiful medium coverage foundation, definitely a little bit of a lighter coverage than the Nars and the Physicians Formula, but it does have SPF in it, SPF of 25, and it, again, just blends out. It's definitely a thinner foundation than the two that I previously mentioned, and like I said, slightly lighter coverage. It has a lot more of a sheen to it, but I find that it just really wears throughout the day, really wears well throughout the day. It doesn't sink into any of my fine lines, doesn't break up, doesn't get cakey, all the good stuff. And it's just a really, really nice foundation. Again, it'll set down a little bit while I'm chatting about the other one, but there it is, pretty much fully blended out on my hand. You can see it's got quite a bit of a glow to it as of right now. It hasn't completely set down yet, but that's what it looks like. Also, it's a really great shade match. Anyways, the dupe that I have is the number 7 Lift and Illuminate Triple Action Serum Foundation. So this one has an SPF of 15. I will throw out there, regardless of SPFs and foundations, you should always be wearing an SPF underneath your foundation, but this one does have a slightly lighter SPF in it. This one, I have to read off of my phone because it's not on the back of this bottle, but this one has, also has peptides, vitamin A and C, and then also has hibiscus flower in it as well. And a unique blend of optical blurs and light reflecting particles to brighten and blur skin. So again, this one is also a more medium coverage foundation, definitely very similar in texture, really thin and just kind of spreads easily. It has a decent coverage, not full coverage, but has a decent coverage to it, has quite a bit of glow to it, especially on first application, but it wears beautifully throughout the day. This one, for me personally, is a really, really great mixing foundation. I love to mix both of these in with other foundations. But as you can see here, Kosas has started to like set down quite a bit. It still has a really strong glow to it. So does this one, but both just look really, really good throughout the day. And just, this one might be a little bit deep for me, but it weirdly enough works on my skin. I think just like once the rest of my makeup's on, it works, but just really, really just works beautifully, has a beautiful glow, just looks natural and pretty throughout the day. I love them both. They're very, very, very similar. So if you were interested in the Kosas but maybe you, I don't know, wanted to try something slightly cheaper, I would recommend the number 7. This one is also paraben free, phthalate free. Yeah, is it paraben free? I don't know. Regardless, it says phthalate free. Maybe I misspoke about the parabens, but regardless, where was I going with what I was saying? This one is also phthalate free. I can't fucking say that for some reason. Phthalate free as well. And like I said, has some also really great ingredients for the skin. But yeah, they wear so similarly to me that I would definitely recommend this one. I do really love this one. I can see myself kind of going interchangeably between the two. This one, again, better shade range than this one. Number 7 and Physicians Formula really need to get their shit together on that. Only other thing I will say is, maybe it's just mine, but my like cap is very wiggly and loose. Like I cannot pick this up by the cap because the glass bottle will just fall. But they're both in really, really nice, like thick, heavy glass bottles. Not that that matters, but very similar foundations. I would put that more in like a dupe range rather than a buy this, not that. Same with the Nars and the Physicians Formula. I wouldn't put that in like a buy this, not that, because there are obviously certain reasons why you may purchase the higher priced one over the lower priced one. But when it comes down to straight formula, and if you can find a shade range in the more affordable drugstore version, I would recommend it. I find them to be gorgeous on the skin. Side note, by the way, if you are interested in the makeup look that I am currently wearing, it'll be up on Thursday. And then next up, I have another primer dupe for you. The product that I am duping is the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer. And the dupe, so let me describe this one a little bit. This is a very like watery, very thin type of formula. And it just looks like that, and it just blends out to a clear, just hydrating base. That's pretty much all it is to it. It has a little bit of a slip to it. It doesn't really get tacky, but it's just like a hydrating base. I love to use this underneath my eyes or on days where I'm particularly dry, but for me, it's not like my 100% go-to type of primer, except for underneath my eyes. I love this primer underneath my eyes, but again, it's just like a very thin, very watery based, very hydrating primer, and that's pretty much what it is. And the dupe that I have is the NYX Hydratouch Primer. So this one is also, this one's a little bit more clear than the other one is white, but this one again is just a very, very watery, you can see it just kind of dripping, that looks a little inappropriate. Very watery, very hydrating, has that slip to it as well. Neither of them get tacky, and it's just a super hydrating, super just like, you know, just like very moisturizing, but sinks in very, very quickly. It'll sink in very quickly. It doesn't really leave behind too much of a glow. It is glowy right now, A, because I just layered the two together, but B, because it's still sinking into my skin. But as it sinks in, it doesn't really leave much behind. It just makes the skin feel very plumpy. Only thing that I will say is that the NYX one does have just a little bit of a fragrance to it. I don't know how to describe it. It's not a bad smell. It's definitely an added fragrance though. But it's almost like a little cologne-y, like a little like male fragrancy, not strong, super not strong, just need to point that out. A little male fragrancy mixed with like fresh rain, just like a dash of fresh rain, you know? It smells like walking with your boyfriend in a rainforest. But that's how I would describe it. It's just kind of like a little bit more of like a musky scent with like the addition of like water, but like water as a fragrance, not water as a liquid. Like water as a fragrance, like those candles that are like clean rain, fresh lake, like that kind of scent, you know what I mean? All right, the next dupe is another one that I do not have the product that I am duping. I mean, I do, but I'm not gonna go open it. Is the Too Faced Lip Injection Extreme, and that is just a very, very plumping lip gloss. That's what it is. It's just got like a spiciness to it. It's not like the one that I'm currently wearing, which is the Tarte Juicy Maracuja Juicy Lip Plump, has like a minty sensation to it, whereas the Too Faced Lip Injection Extreme has like a spiciness to it. Like it definitely has capsaicin in it rather than menthol. But it's just a very, very plumping lip gloss. The one that I wear is like a sheer color that just plumps up my lips. How I like to wear those products is I don't like to wear them throughout the day. I like to put it on right before I start to do my makeup, and I will wear it while I'm doing my eyeshadow, and then I will wipe it off and put on the rest of my makeup. And it just plumps up my lips. It definitely does add some hydration. It'll leave behind like a little bit of a hydration, and it just feels good and it looks good, and I like the way that it looks. I definitely have worn it like out and about, and it looks great, and it definitely keeps your lips plumped. It's not a super long lasting thing, but I like the way that it makes my lips look in the interim, and it kind of just like gets rid of some of those lines and stuff in my lips, albeit temporarily, but regardless. Not a cheap lip gloss. Definitely not a cheap lip gloss. So I provide to you a very cheap alternative, which is the Essence What the Fake Extreme Plumping Lip Gloss. This has cherry extract in it. So this one is obviously pink. The one that I typically wear from Too Faced is like the clear version. I know that Too Faced has a reddish pinkish one, but this bitch is spicy. I would actually say that this might be a little bit more spicy than the Too Faced, but it does an amazing job at plumping my lips. It, again, leaves a little bit of a hydration behind. It just feels good. It looks good. It's got a good color to it, and you can definitely feel it and see it working. And so I just love a plumping lip gloss that actually does what it advertises to do, rather than just being like, yeah, we're like plumping, and like it's just like a little bit spicy and it doesn't really do much of anything. So definitely, if you are someone who loves like the super plumping lip glosses, I would purchase this over the Too Faced any day. I have a backup of the Too Faced plumping or lip injection, but once I finish that one off, this is going to be the only thing that I purchase. All right, next up is an absolute like true dupe. And the product that I am duping is the Kaja Moon Crystal Liquid Shadow in the shade Magic. I have been very like upfront on my channel about the fact that I fucking hate this packaging. The biggest reason why I hate this packaging is because I just know that once this product starts to dry out, it's gonna be a fucking nightmare to get out of here, rather than a doe foot or in a pot or whatever. And I also just think about like every time you squeeze this to get it out, it's just sucking air back into it, which is going to dry out the product faster. But I really like the color of it. I have also been upfront about the fact that sometimes this one in particular can get a little bit patchy. You can see it right there. It looks great on the reflect, but it can get a little bit patchy. I'm also not going to lie to you. It's not performing the greatest piled on top of multiple primers on my hand. But this is the general idea of the color. It's like kind of like really warm toned browny purple shade, like kind of maroony shade, with a blue teal reflect shift to it. That's the general idea, right? The dupe that I have is the Physicians Formula Diamond Melt-allic, so metallic but with melt instead of metallic, mineral wear liquid eyeshadow, and this one is in the shade Beam of Blue. So this one is already in better packaging because it has a doe foot, but shade wise it is almost identical. The Physicians Formula one is maybe just a little tiny bit darker, a little bit more blue based than the other one. Again, really not working out really well on top of all of these primers, but as you can see, they are very, very, very similar. This one is a little bit, this one has more of a teal reflect, this one has a little bit more of a blue reflect, but they perform similarly on the skin. We're gonna ignore this situation. I promise it looks so much better on the eyes. It's just all of that primer that was sitting on my hand. It's just making it pill up when I was trying to blend it out. But this one has like a little bit of a blue purple reflect to it. This one has like a teal purple reflect to it, but they're very, very, very similar. Long lasting, applies really easily, blends easily on the eyes, and it just looks really similar. So if you are interested in the Kaja, but maybe you were like me and you were like, I don't fucking like that packaging, or you just wanted to try a cheaper alternative, I would definitely recommend the Physicians Formula Diamond Melt-allic in Beam of Blue. All right, another one, last one, that I do not have the original, but I have a dupe for, this one's hard for me because I haven't purchased the Smashbox relaunch of the Becca products, so I can't say that they are the exact same. I don't 100% know that, so I'm not going to speak on that. But I am duping the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector, which again, Smashbox did re-release it. Whether or not they are identical, all I know is that Smashbox did expand the shade range a little bit on it, whereas Becca only had 2 shades. They had like a really light shade and then they had a more orangey medium shade. So obviously for me, I wore the lighter of the 2 shades. But the Makeup Revolution let me not read this upside down, Eye Bright Corrector in light to medium. They also released 2 shades. The 2 shades that they released looked identical to Becca. Also, look how much fucking product this is. This is, you know what, real quick, let me compare. Let me do a quick comparison here while I chat about this. But I saw this and immediately I was like, okay, that looks basically identical to the Becca product. And lo and behold, it is in fact pretty much identical to the Becca product. Smashbox, Becca, fucking whatever. Only thing is, like I said, they only released the 2 shades that were very similar to the 2 Becca shades. All right, so as you can see right here, Smashbox x Becca released the 4 shades. So I'm specifically duping that shade right there. The Fairlight shade. There's a medium shade which looks very similar to the Makeup Revolution medium shade, and then there's a medium dark and a dark. I can't speak to the product itself because, like I said, I haven't tried it, but I could imagine that it's probably pretty fucking similar to the Becca one. Anyways, what I was gonna say, why I wanted to double check, is the Smashbox x Becca one is $32 for 0.15 ounces. See, there is the medium deep shade from Makeup Revolution. So $32 for 0.15 fluid ounces. This one is $8 for 0.28. So 8, 16, 24, 32. So a quarter of the price for almost double the size. So if you were someone who the 2 original Becca shades worked for you, get this, try this. It is fucking amazing. I do wish that maybe the container was larger and flatter, so it's a little bit easier to get in there. I actually I use a brush. With the Becca one, I used to use my finger until it started to get like really low, but with this one, I just go straight in with the brush because it's like a little bit more narrow and it's very, very deep, but just dunk my brush in, put it on my face. But you need so little product that this is gonna last so fucking long. And it just does a beautiful job at brightening. It doesn't look weird underneath concealer, doesn't make concealer act weird or anything. It is a fucking phenomenal product and a total complete dupe for Becca. Again, if you are someone who has deeper skin tones and you were finally able to try the under eye corrector that everyone had been raving about because Smashbox did extend the shade range, which maybe Becca should have fucking done that sooner. I really hope that Makeup Revolution will follow their lead and also expand their line, because this has been released for a decent amount of time now and it has been almost consistently sold out. Like, it is very, very, very hard to get your eyes on or get your hands on. You know what I meant. But again, if you were somebody that the 2 original Becca shades worked for you, then you need to try this because it is perfect. It is a perfect product. And again, a quarter of the price for basically double the amount of product. That's a true dupe. Like a true dupe. All right, 2 more dupes to go. The next product that I am duping is the Milk Hydra Grip, which you're probably like, but you already said a gripping primer. This one to me is slightly less gripping than the Cover FX or the e.l.f. It's just a little bit more hydrating and a little less grippy. It's still very grippy, don't get me wrong, very, very grippy, but it just has a little bit more of a slip to it, a little bit more of a hydrating quality to it than the other two. The other ones feel like just a true grip, whereas this one, again, just a little bit more hydrating and a little bit less grippy. Still very grippy, but less grippy, less sticky to work with. And the dupe that I have is the NYX Plump Right Back Plumping Serum and Primer. So again, this one is, I'll do it. I don't love the way it feels on my hands, but I'm gonna do it. So both are gel-like consistencies. They both are very, this one right here is the Milk, and then this one right here is NYX. So they have like a bit of a slip to them, and they just blend out. The NYX one is a little bit thicker than Becca, but they're both just clear gel-like consistencies. You blend them in and they get tacky. The NYX one has some electrolytes in it, which are good for the skin, good for hydration. Let me just go ahead and, I'm already sticky, so I might as well compare. We'll put this one down here. So there is the e.l.f. one right there, and it is just more instantly sticky, if that makes any sense. It's just has more of an instant stick, whereas the Milk one, not Milk, really blends into the skin. So does the NYX one, whereas the e.l.f. one, I don't want to say it sits on top of the skin, it's just, it sinks in a different way. It leaves behind a lot more of a stickiness than the other two. But just to me, these ones are super, super similar, very like hydrating, but again, tacky. All right, last but not least, I have a concealer dupe for you guys. These ones are not a shade match because I accidentally purchased one of them, the more expensive one, in far too light of a shade for me. But the product that I am duping is the Tarte C Power Flex Concealer. And the concealer that I have that is the dupe is the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear. I know this one had been really heavily talked about as a dupe for Shape Tape. I never personally saw that. I think a lot of people were like mystified by the giant doe foot applicator that just became like, Tarte started it and then every brand was like, giant doe foot applicator, let's fucking go. To me, the L'Oreal one was always a little bit more hydrating, still had really, really, really full coverage like Shape Tape does, but it was a little bit more hydrating. It was a lot more forgiving on the under eyes, whereas Shape Tape is very drying, very like, if you have lines underneath your eyes, if you have dry skin, Shape Tape is not forgiving whatsoever. So I never really like 100% saw them as dupes. I was just like, oh yeah, this is like a super full coverage concealer with a big doe foot applicator. Like that's about as far as it goes in the terms of dupes. Whereas it's so weird it only has writing on one part of it, but the Tarte C Power Flex Concealer is definitely on the more hydrating side compared to the Shape Tape, but it's not like overly hydrating. Like I also use the Shape Tape Ultra Creamy. That one is much more creamy and much more hydrating than both of these concealers, but both of these are super, super full coverage. The doe foots pull out a fuckload of product, and you literally like, that's enough right there for like the whole face. Like you can see there's like a glob situation happening, but like this is too much concealer. This is also the one that's like way too light for me, but super, super full coverage, a lot more hydrating than Shape Tape, but again, not overly hydrating. I guess these aren't that different, but they dry down, set down. They're relatively forgiving on the under eyes, more forgiving than Shape Tape, but they're not as forgiving as Shape Tape Ultra Creamy or something that's got a lot of like, or like the Nars Radiant Creamy, you know, the ones that are, again, creamy, the creamy ones. Definitely not as forgiving. They are a little bit more matte than those ones, but these ones are, as you can see, super full coverage. Very little goes a very, very long way. So it'll last forever. These are, by the way, I know that this looks like it's so much concealer. It just throws me off considerably. This looks like it's so much concealer because like that's a chunky boy right there. But these are the exact same amount of product, and this is, I want to say, like a third of the price. But yeah, super full coverage. Little goes a very long way. Really, really long lasting. Sets well with powder. I'm not one to not set my concealer. I don't fuck around with that, honestly. So they set well with powder and it lasts well. I don't notice them like sinking into my lines underneath my eyes or anything like that. It's just a good concealer. Not my 100% favorite. My 100% favorite will always be like the Tarte Shape Tape Ultra Creamy, the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, which are also dupes, but I talked about that in my last video. But I do really, really like this. Especially if I'm looking for a lot more full coverage. With this one in particular, because it's so fucking light, I do have to mix it with another concealer that I tend to mix it with like a lighter coverage, more hydrating concealer that's like a lot, not a lot deeper, but more closer to my skin tone to kind of like neutralize this bitch out a little bit. But very brightening, high coverage. I've said it 1,000 times. These perform identically. So I would definitely recommend the L'Oreal over the Tarte. All right, so that is going to wrap up today's videos and my dupes slash buy this, not that. I love looking for dupes. I find it so fun. Honestly, my favorite part is like when I'm putting on my makeup and I'm trying a new product, and like I will, as I get more and more comfortable with a product, I'll be like, oh wow, this is like super similar to X. And like just kind of a genuinely discovering it as opposed to like intentionally looking for it. That was a lot of what I did for my last dupes video, was I was intentionally looking for something, whereas all of these were like genuinely stumbling upon something that is very, very similar, if not slightly better. I love that. I love like genuinely stumbling across a product and being like, holy shit, like these are so similar. I would love to I want to share this with you guys. And then I like kind of compile a little bit list and I keep it in my back pocket until I have enough to talk about. But that's gonna wrap up today's video. I hope that you guys learned something. Comment down below and let me know a dupe that you know of. I would love to know. I love dupes. Please subscribe if you have not already. It would mean the world to me. Like this video, ring the bell, do all the things. I hope that you guys have an awesome, awesome day, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!